I'd like to do this video a little bit differently today. One thing that I thought about was that I've never really showed you guys my process. The process of selecting what we're gonna have for dinner, grocery shopping for all of the things, and then actually making it. So a week full of meals, but all the process included. So we're starting off with coffee because that's usually how I start out. Also, by the way, we switched up our coffee just to try a different bean, and I'm not feeling this one, okay? Like we're working our way through it so we don't waste it, but we're not gonna stick with this one. I'll review our week in my planner, kind of look over everything that we have going on for that week. That's how I typically decide what it is that we need for the week, how many meals I need to be making. Are we going out? Are we going to a friend's house? Are we meeting anybody? I don't know if this happens to you guys, but a lot of times I'll plan for 7 meals and then all of a sudden 3 nights something crazy will come up. And sometimes it's produce that doesn't carry over, which ends up being a huge disappointment because if it doesn't carry over and it goes bad, then it's just a total waste of money. So I like to try and be really careful and thought out when I plan this. Also, I'm gonna drop a little hint here. I'm gonna be talking about this at length coming up here soon. Just stay tuned. It's something I'm pretty excited about. I'm not gonna let you in on too much information, but there's some stuff coming, okay? Just stay tuned. The first thing that I typically do is head over to my pantry and I give it a once over. I like to look here and just see, is there anything that we're almost out of, anything that we definitely are out of that I need to add to my grocery list, things that might not even necessarily pertain to the actual recipes that we're making, but just those pantry staples that we really always have on hand. In addition to checking my pantry, I also go through the refrigerator and do the same thing, looking through the shelves and the doors and seeing if there's anything that we're close to being out of or any of our staples. Now friends, here's the part where I get comfortable because I am kind of snuggling in for a little bit here as I meal plan, work through my planner, figure out all of the recipes that we're gonna be having that I'm gonna add to the menu that week, using the ingredients that I know we already have in there because I've looked through my freezer. There are 2 reasons why I grocery shop online, and I'm not saying that this is for everybody, I'm just gonna explain why I do it. The first reason is I do not like the grocery store, period. Never really have enjoyed it. You guys know I love Sam's Club. I will walk through Sam's Club and have no issues with it. I have friends that thoroughly love and enjoy shopping at the grocery store. And if that's for you, you should absolutely continue to do it. The second reason that I grocery shop online is I have found for us, it significantly saves our family money. I do not have the ability to go in and impulse buy when I grocery shop online because I have everything pulled up that I'm gonna make for the week, and I just buy exactly the ingredients that we need. So it's a way that I have saved our family money. We've actually calculated it over time, and it truly has saved us pretty drastic amounts of money because we buy groceries with intention. And I know this doesn't work for everyone, but there are multiple different ways you can do this. Obviously, you can do it through Instacart. Our local grocery store here, you can do it through them, and it's Harris Teeter. That's one of our local grocery stores. If you're really good at sticking to a list, by all means, you can definitely do it that way. That's just how we do it here, and it works really well. There are lots of ways to go about saving recipes. I use Pinterest so often. I actually have my own recipes from my website saved on Pinterest. So sometimes I'll go on there, and if I can't remember the exact ingredient or the amount, I can check it out there. I go to my own website. I use other people's websites. Instacart has a recipe bank. A lot of your grocery stores actually have a recipe bank. I know Publix has one, and their Publix aprons, whatever it is, fantastic. They have great recipe banks. I'll go there and pick out all the recipes that we're having for the week. So after looking at my planner for this week, I know that I need 5 dinners. Okay, so this doesn't include breakfast and lunch, although at this point I also order everything that I need for breakfast and lunch for the week. But I know that I need something for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. On Fridays, we eat at church. We have church family dinner, so we'll eat there. On Saturday, we're actually gonna go to my brother's house for dinner. And then on Sunday, I've been doing a crock pot meal almost every Sunday because we can either have it right when we get home from church or we can have it in the evening and it's just been cooking all day long. So depending on how long that crock pot recipe takes, Sunday for me is a great day for crock pot meals. So I've got everything picked that I want for the week. I've got it all up here on my computer, and that's where I just start going through the ingredient list, pulling from memory and thinking, okay, I remember I already had this in my pantry or freezer or fridge. I don't need to order this, or yes, we do need to order this for that recipe. Then I order all of the groceries that I need. And for us, I usually do pickup or delivery, just depending on whether or not I'm gonna be out that day. So in addition to what we're gonna eat for the week, I also think about those breakfast staples. We actually have a person at our church that we get our eggs from. She has lots of chickens, so we get eggs from her. I never have to worry about that, but I always have milk on hand, and we pretty much always buy extra milk. Coffee, half and half. Oatmeal. My kids eat a lot of oatmeal in the mornings. I do make my own bread, so we make sure that I have enough flour. Right before I place the order, I usually will do a roundup at our house and say, okay, do you have any requests? This is your one opportunity to let me know if you have something that needs to go on the grocery order. Now, after I decide what our menu is gonna be and everything that I'm ordering, I come over here to our menu board and I write it all down, because that way everybody can see it. Now, when I write everything down on the menu board, I start on Sunday, but I would just suggest starting with whatever day works for your family, especially when you're meal planning. If you are ordering groceries on Wednesday and you want to start your week of meals on Thursday, do it that way. For the purpose of this video, you'll see that it's actually going to start on Monday and it's going to end on Sunday. So that's just kind of the way that I have it laid out for this. But I will say I really enjoy keeping a menu board like this and keeping track of it too. And if you're an OG, if you've been around here for a while, this is not the first time you've seen the menu board. I mean, it's been years ago that I showed this to you guys, and it's traveled with us from house to house. Just in case you're wondering what this is and how you can get it to look this way, I'm gonna show you, okay? This is a picture frame that we bought. I wanna say we bought it from like TJ Maxx or Home Goods or something like that years ago. Underneath it, not cut out very well, is just a piece of chalkboard, I don't know, whatever you call this. It just sticks to the wall. It's just a chalkboard sticky stuff. That's it. You buy it in a big roll. Whenever this one gets too bad, I cut a new one. And this just goes on the top. And look, you have a homemade, actually that's, just slide it over a little bit. You have a homemade menu board. It's so easy. I've seen them where you put glass on the front and you can write on them with like pretty glass markers. So now we've got our menu for the week. We've got our groceries ordered. Then all we do is wait for the groceries to get here, unload everything, put them away, prep for the week. If there's anything that needs to be prepped, like fruit being washed and stuff like that, and then we're set up for the week. And now you're gonna get a week full of meals. This is one of those recipes that we have made time and time again. We change it up depending on what's available in the refrigerator and in the pantry. We'll just add whatever kind of stuff we have available. So don't feel like just because you don't have every single thing that I add into this recipe that you can't make it, because you absolutely can. We are gonna start this by making the little marinade that the chicken goes in, and then the chicken will go in it, but we're also gonna use the marinade for the rest of the dish. But that way it can be sitting in it for about 15 minutes or so while I prep everything else. So into this bowl, I am adding about a fourth cup to a half cup of olive oil. Now for us, we're going a little lighter on the olive oil, more toward the fourth cup, because I'm using chicken thighs. And so for me, I'm just gonna cut down on that. You can obviously use chicken breasts for this recipe, but it is gonna bake in the oven. And I've said it here before, we prefer, if we're gonna bake chicken, that we do thighs. They just come out better in my opinion. But if you're looking for a leaner option, feel free to go with the chicken breasts. Let's add in about 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. You can use a fresh lemon, but I really need mine for tomorrow, so we're just gonna use this jar. We need about 3 to 4 cloves of minced garlic. Let's add some salt. I'm gonna add about a teaspoon of salt. You can go less on this if you want, but it is a marinade. I wanna make sure there's really good flavor here. About 2 teaspoons of oregano. A teaspoon of thyme, a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. Now, let me tell you, if you are not using Dijon mustard in your marinades, you're missing out. There's great flavor in this. It is not just a sandwich condiment. It's really, really great for dressings and marinades. You can also add pepper to this if you want. We are going to just mix everything together here, and then I'm gonna be adding in my chicken thighs. Now, you guys know I like to cut off the fat from my chicken thighs a little bit Obviously, I know it's still a more fatty protein, but I do like to cut some of it off. And then we're gonna add it into that. All right, so we've got all of our chicken in here. We just kind of move it around a bit to make sure that we're gonna get that marinade over all of that chicken. Oh my goodness, it is gonna be so good. If you guys have been here for a while, you've seen this very similar marinade be used on steak bites before when we make Greek bowls. It's so good. I mean, this is just the marinade. We love Greek flavors. We love Mediterranean flavors. This is like our go-to. All right, friends, I've got some washed potatoes here. I'm going to be dicing these, and I'm actually going to dice them significantly smaller than I probably would on any other sheet pan. And that's because sometimes when we do sheet pan, I will actually cook the potatoes first, then add the protein because the potatoes can take longer. But the smaller you dice them, the shorter the cooking time. And I'd like to cook it all together tonight on the same pan. So that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna make maybe 1/2 inch diced pieces. So they're just gonna be smaller than normal. You don't have to use potatoes. Another great option for this sheet pan would be zucchini. Zucchini and squash would be really good on here. We've done broccoli with this one before. You can do green beans, you could do Brussels sprouts. We just love root vegetables. We are a potato loving family. Just follow the same basic concept. You know, you can use that marinade for plenty of things. Now this next ingredient might come as a little surprise, but I can use onions in recipes like this, even though my husband doesn't like them, because I can just use a little bit and it's not mixed in, right? So he can pick through it and easily just not eat what he doesn't want to eat. I just add a little bit. I just think that having a little bit of onion on here, first, it looks really pretty. Second of all, I love the flavor, so I like to have it in there. And then I also like to add a little bit of green. So we've got our bell pepper. Now again, I've done this plenty of times without bell pepper because we didn't have it available. It wasn't in our fridge, so obviously I wasn't gonna use it, but it's available this time, so it's convenient to just go ahead and throw it on there, making sure it doesn't just go to waste in the pantry, or in the refrigerator, I should say. And let's add a little bit of red pepper as well. Same process. All right, so that chicken has been marinating for a few minutes now. I'm gonna take it and just lay it on our parchment lined baking sheet. You can use parchment, you can use foil if you'd like. I mean, foil, you can wrap it around and it's gonna protect your baking sheet. You don't have to wash it quite as heavily, but that's what we have parchment paper right now, so that's what we're going with. So we're just gonna lay them out wherever you want, but save that, okay? Now we just start to take all of our other ingredients and go all around. Okay. So now we just take that marinade that we have left over and just kind of drizzle all around. And then I just give it a light toss just to try and get that marinade kind of spread out a little bit. Now I'm gonna sprinkle with a little bit of extra oregano and a little bit more salt. Just wanna make sure all the vegetables have good flavor. The next thing I add is some Kalamata olives. These are sliced, you can use whole, it's up to you. Just kind of toss them all around. Y'all, tell me this looks delicious. You know it does. I was gonna add tomatoes, but I don't even know where they'll go. See if we can add a couple here. I don't know if I've ever told you guys, but my son eats these right here, these gourmet Mendley tomatoes. We go through a pack a week easily because he eats them like a snack. We'll walk by and grab a handful, and that is a snack for him. He loves them. The last thing I like to do is top with a little bit of feta cheese. Totally optional. I know a lot of you don't like feta cheese, and that's okay. It's okay. You just want to top with a little bit of feta if that's your thing, if you like feta. But y'all, come on. I mean, look at How beautiful and how good, and all these amazing flavors. Again, if you want to cut down on the fat content, then don't add the feta cheese. It's a totally optional ingredient, but I mean, it looks delicious. We're gonna bake this at 425 degrees. It usually takes around 30 to 35 minutes. I always just watch it and make sure that stuff doesn't overcook though. It also obviously depends. If you have bone-in thighs, those are gonna take a little bit longer to cook. These are boneless, skinless, so they don't take quite as long to cook. So 425 degrees. This looks so delicious. I already know we're gonna love these flavors because they're just flavors that we love. Chicken is great. Just so you know, I ended up cooking it about 37 minutes. Again, ours is boneless and skinless, so just depending on what type of chicken thighs you're using, it could make a difference. Let's try some of the vegetables. They're perfect. You have that marinade on there that we added to the chicken. It adds great flavor to those vegetables. So every single bite is bursting with that Greek Mediterranean flavor that at least we definitely love. We are making chicken and dumplings. This one is such an easy dinner. If you wanna throw together a meal in about 30 minutes or so, this is the one to do. It's perfect for a cold night. It's made with canned biscuit dough. You can make your own homemade dumplings if you want, but man, the canned biscuits are so easy. And it can also be made with rotisserie chicken. I personally have chicken breasts that I am just cooking over on the stovetop, and we're gonna shred them up and add them. Chicken and dumplings is such a great way to use up that rotisserie chicken. Let's head over to the stovetop where pretty much everything in this meal is gonna be made. Like I said, I'm cooking up some chicken breasts over here, but while that's cooking, we're gonna go ahead and get started with the stuff that goes into our pot. Starting with a couple of tablespoons of butter here in my big pot. So basically what we're doing is making our own homemade cream of. You can just use a can of cream of chicken if that's what you want. I never use those. I almost always just make them because they really are so easy to make. All right, while this is in there, I'm gonna go ahead and start adding in spices as it's melting. I've got Italian seasoning here, maybe a half teaspoon or so. You can add whatever spices you like into this. We like to add spice. We like a lot of flavor. Let's add in some basil. Again, probably around a half teaspoon. Let's add some oregano, same thing, about a half teaspoon. I like to add onion powder. You can obviously add onion if you want. You can go up to a teaspoon with this one, especially if you are not adding onion. And then we're gonna add in some garlic powder. I probably will do maybe a half teaspoon of this one. And then I'm gonna toss in a little bit of salt. This is salted butter, but I do like to add a little bit of salt here too. About a half teaspoon. Keep in mind that this is a somewhat homemade chicken noodle soup. We are not making the dumplings. You can, it's actually not very hard to do that. But if you've got one of those cans of biscuit dough rolling around in the drawer of your refrigerator, this is a great way to use them. Okay, I'm gonna add about 3 tablespoons of flour. We'll see what that looks like. I might end up adding 4, just depending. I'm gonna go ahead and whisk that together though. Okay, just let that cook for a minute or two, and then we're gonna start to whisk in our liquid. I'm gonna start by adding some bone broth or chicken broth, whichever you prefer. And I'm starting with that because it is straight out of the pantry. It's not cold, which I find blends a little bit better with this right here. But overall, we're gonna use 4 cups. Now, unfortunately, the only one that my grocery store had was unsalted, so we're probably gonna have to add a little bit more salt to this. Okay, so let's just start with about a cup of this, and then we'll add in more. I wanna get the flour combined, the roux kind of mixed in. Looking good, let's add more and continue to mix it together. Okay, now I feel like it's nice and combined. I don't have any, flour chunks or anything like that. I'm gonna go ahead and add the rest of this. Ideally, I would probably want another cup of the bone broth, but so unfortunately, my grocery store has been out of bone. Unfortunately, my grocery store has been out of bone broth for a while. This is the only one that we could get today. And Sam's Club, which is where I usually buy it in bulk, it's completely out, and I'm really hoping that they haven't stopped selling it. I will be so disappointed. I do make it myself, and I have a rotisserie chicken, so I am gonna be making some later, but man, I just really, it's so convenient to buy it from Sam's Club because it's so inexpensive. To this, let's add about a cup of milk. Okay, let me give that a good stir here. Now, if I had some bouillon, I could make up some chicken broth. I don't think I have any though. Okay, once you start to see a bit of a boil here, that's kind of what we're looking for to add in the biscuits. The biscuits will just take a couple of minutes once we put them in there. All right, what I do is just take a biscuit and cut it into pieces. And then you can obviously actually cut them if you want to, but I just use my scissors because that makes it really easy. You can cut them into 4s, you can cut them into whatever sizes you like.
Some big dumplings too.
You want what, larger ones? I mean, some of them are pretty big. Lightly press them down, making sure that they're getting cooked. Add in some parsley for color. You can garnish with parsley too in the individual bowls or whatever you're gonna serve it in. Okay, we got the boil. These are all in there. I'm stirring it occasionally, but we just need it to really simmer now. So I'm turning down my heat about 10 minutes and then it's ready to go. I think I'm actually just gonna put a lid on just for a few minutes. Okay, it is done. So easy. It's about 30 minutes. Really hot, great flavor. Tastes like you threw together a homemade meal, which I mean, it's homemade. We made it in the home. It's partially homemade, but very, very good. So easy. This is also one that if you make enough of it, I always feel like chicken and dumplings reheats well. It's never one of those that I'm like, when it's reheated, it just gets like mushy and gross and it's not as good the second day. I feel like it is as good the second day. Sometimes it's better the second day. Very, very good and bold flavors with all those extra added spices. Tonight for dinner, we're making a Mexican lasagna casserole. I've got my dish over here, but a lot of this actually gets prepped over on the stovetop. I'm currently prepping our tortillas. I'm using white corn tortillas. You can use yellow corn. You could probably use flour too. But one thing that I like to do, although it may not be completely necessary, is to just quickly fry each one of them. So I just use a spray avocado oil or olive oil and then just sear them on both sides of the tortilla and set them to the side. You really just sear them for like 30 seconds each side. It does take a little bit of time to do this, but I feel like it adds to a crispiness that they don't get quite as soggy when you're cooking. It's an extra step you can take that I do feel like is worth it. So by doing that, you're just gonna add this little bit of color to each one of them. I mean, I just feel like it's worth it, I really do. So I'm gonna go ahead and just start prepping my 9x13 dish, even though we don't have everything ready to go. Just while these finish up, we need to spray. Okay, we're gonna spray that, and then you're gonna lay 6 tortillas at the bottom, overlap them so that you get that full layer at the bottom there. All of our tortillas are done and ready to go. So I'm gonna head over to the stovetop. Let's cook up our 1 pound of ground beef, also preheating our oven to 350 degrees. So once this is all assembled, it can go in there. A pound of ground beef. Ooh, it's nice and hot. All right, while this is cooking, I am gonna add in a little bit of salt. Maybe, let's do about a ½ teaspoon. You can also add in onion to this if you want to. About a teaspoon of minced garlic. I'm gonna start adding in my other spices. My heat is currently on a medium-low. That's about all I need right at this moment. This is one of those recipes where you can add in a taco seasoning packet, or you can just add in pretty much all your spices from your pantry like I do. I'm gonna add the ever so slightest touch of cayenne. I mean, truly just a touch. And we've got some onion powder, maybe half teaspoon. Let's do some garlic powder, again, about a half teaspoon. Some pepper, maybe only a quarter teaspoon of that. I personally like to add in some chili powder. It might be a little odd, but we like the flavor of that in here. Okay, closer to a teaspoon probably on that one. Also, some paprika for smokiness. I like about a half teaspoon or so on that. Love adding cumin in this one, probably about a teaspoon. Just continue to mix that together. It's nice and browned. Awesome, awesome. I mean, the smell of this one, yes, this is what you want. I have a can of fire roasted diced tomatoes. This already has the green chilies in it, so we're gonna use this. If you don't have the can with green chilies, you probably wanna add a can of green chilies to this. I also have a can of drained and rinsed black beans. Those are going in. Actually might add green chilies still, another can. We like them a lot. I like the color that it adds. I think I'm going to. I'm gonna go ahead and add a can of green chilies. All right, so this is pretty much done. It's really just kind of combining it, heating it through. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this off and we can move back over to the other side of the kitchen. I thought we had enough shredded cheese. We don't. And for me to shred more cheese right now, I have to pull it out of the freezer and let it thaw. And we don't have time for that. I need to make dinner. So I have some shredded cheese and I also have some sliced cheese. So we're gonna be using both of those. I'm gonna take about a third of this mixture and that's gonna go in this layer. Oven is ready, like you can hear. Okay, just spread this around, creating a layer. We top this layer with cheese. We're gonna have to get a little creative with the cheese. You could just lay it down in slices, but I do feel like that's gonna require me to use a lot more cheese than I actually want to use in this recipe. So we're just gonna tear it apart and kind of hope it melts a little bit all over. All right, another layer of tortillas. Same thing, 6 across again. So it's really just like lasagna. You're just layering, adding, layering. Okay, same type of thing here. Get that one closer to the edge. If you hear noises, my husband is outside working on our deck. We started the process of putting composite decking. Well, we had to rip up our old stuff, but we had started the process of doing composite decking, and we had a friend come over today and kind of look at the substructure of the deck. It actually needs a lot more work than what we thought. We're gonna use the shredded cheese for the top now, so I'm just gonna cover in shredded cheese. Really wish I had looked ahead of time at the cheese that we had, because I could have I could have shredded plenty of cheese. I think we have like a 5-pound block in there or something. Okay, there we go. This needs to get covered and it's gonna go into the oven for about 30 minutes or so, and then dinner will be ready. Good flavor. Actually, really good flavor. I don't know that these would work with flour tortillas at all. I just feel like they'd get too mushy. I mean, maybe if you're eating it right away, I don't think it would reheat well, but it's overall good. Like I said, really good flavor. Something different that you can make other than your traditional lasagna, but yeah, this is definitely a winner. Friends, I need to start off this recipe by telling you that there are about 700 different ways to make this. So please do not think you have to make it the way that I am. You can make it in one pot over on the stovetop. I'm choosing a casserole version this time. That's how I originally learned how to make this. So that's what we're going with. Make it the way your grandma taught you, okay? Or maybe this is your first time and you do want to try it this way, and that's completely fine. This is Arroz Con Pollo, okay? I don't know if I'm saying it exactly right, but that is how we say it. We're gonna start by making up a chicken spice marinade, all the spices that are gonna go in this. There's a few spices that I wish that I had, like turmeric. I'm missing that one. And we actually just ran out of garlic powder. So I'm gonna be adding some minced garlic into my marinade when we marinate the chicken, just because of that. I've got some oregano here. We're gonna add about a teaspoon of oregano here into this bowl. Okay, you guys know I don't measure. This is just an eyeball. And about a teaspoon of cumin. Love cumin, maybe a little more than a teaspoon. We need 2 teaspoons of paprika. It's a lot, but it's worth it, okay? You're making a decent amount of spice here. And about right around 2 teaspoons of salt. Again, seems like a lot, but this is gonna be a decent sized dish here. Pretty much every spice that I have in my cabinet, I feel like is out right now. We're gonna add in some chili powder. We need about a teaspoon of this one. Okay, that should be good. And add a little bit of pepper. I'm doing about a half teaspoon. A half teaspoon of thyme. I don't feel like I added the onion powder. Did I add the onion powder? We might be adding double. It's about 1.5 teaspoons, 1 to 1.5-ish, okay? And I know I added salt. Oh, I'm gonna add a touch of cayenne pepper, just a little bit. I like a little bit of heat in this one, but not too much. That's maybe like a 1/4 teaspoon. Okay, so like I said, you can also add turmeric, you can add garlic powder. I mean, look at this. This is just like all the great flavors in here, okay? In my opinion, the absolute best chicken to use for this is a bone-in chicken thigh. We are in abundance of chicken breasts right now, so that's what I'm gonna use. But like I said, chicken thighs, so good. So here's what we're gonna do, which you guys know is pretty much what I always do. And that is take my chicken breasts and I cut them in half lengthwise. Okay, so we cut them like this to thin them out. I've got my spice mix. I've got my bowl over here. Before I wash my hands, I'm gonna add some spice mix here into this bowl, about half of what we had in here. I need about 2 tablespoons or so of oil. This is an avocado oil. We need about 1 tablespoon of white wine vinegar. The spoon, and mix this together. It's gonna be a nice thick marinade, which is what we want. And we are gonna let this chicken marinate in this little marinade that we've made for about 15 to 20 minutes. You can really just let it marinate at room temperature. And then while this is working, I am gonna go ahead and start making up everything else that we need. Okay, but look, I mean, y'all, you want all the flavors. It should be covered in all the flavors, okay? I have not made this in, it's probably been about 5 years. So everybody's gonna be excited. You should feel free to add things like green pepper and onion, for instance. We're not gonna be using those. If you guys have been here for a while, you know that. We're gonna be using these roasted red peppers. Okay, I'm gonna use this whole jar that we have left, and I'm gonna cut them up, or dice them up rather. Come on. I actually had purchased a green pepper for this recipe, and I did a fridge clean out this morning, just kind of going through, taking inventory, and it wasn't good anymore, which really stinks because those things are not inexpensive, okay? All right, so we've got a good amount of the roasted red pepper. Now I'm gonna take some of these green olives here out of this jar. They make a lot of noise. I'm gonna take some of these Spanish green olives. These are pitted, but you can use the ones with pimentos in it. You can leave them whole. I typically like to at least cut mine in half. You need about a half cup. That should be good. I need to start my oven. 375 is what you want your oven to be at. Also, you can add peas to this. A lot of people do. We skip on the peas. I would absolutely add capers, but I think that the jar I bought the other night, my husband and my son used, they wanted to make a pasta for the family. I think they used the full jar. Now I usually make mine in a 9x13 pan. I'm gonna go ahead and add the stuff that I have chopped straight into this pan, okay? And I just mix, let me get green onion on the front, or green olive on the front of me. I just mix everything here in the pan. Okay, let's open up this can of fire roasted diced tomatoes. These have the green chilies in them. I'm going to drain these, and I want them to be drained well. I'm also gonna add about 2 cloves of minced garlic. Let's add in those spices. So the remaining spices, you need about 2.5 tablespoons remaining. I'm just gonna go ahead and add all of that in. We need to add about 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. Now, you guys know this is one of those things where you never use the whole thing. I always take it out in tablespoon increments and freeze it individually, because then that makes it so easy to go back later and just grab 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons, whatever it is that you need. So I'm going to transfer this to a bowl so that after I'm done making everything, I can just go in and freeze the remaining amount. So just about 2 tablespoons is going into our dish. Come on. Okay, we'll leave that there. I'm gonna freeze that. Okay, I'm gonna pull out 2.5 cups of rice. I've got this white rice here. We're gonna rinse and drain it really well, okay? So 2.5 cups. Okay, all the rice can go in. Let's mix this together. Start the mix anyway. We still need to add in our broth. Now, also, while I'm mixing this together, let me tell you, if you're using chicken thighs, you will find that you can add your chicken in right away when it goes into the oven. Nice. That's awesome. Since it's chicken breasts and they dry out a lot faster, I'm actually going to add them in after this has been in the oven for a little bit, because I just don't want them to overcook and then it gets gross. So we'll sear them off, we'll just set them to the side, and then I'll add them in when there's only like 10 minutes or so left. Now, I'm using bone broth, but you can use chicken broth. This is 3.5 cups. Oh, let me just spill some over the side. Mix together. We are going to cover this, put this in the oven, still stir it at the 10-minute mark, but that's when we're gonna add in those seared chicken breasts, because I don't want them in the oven longer than like 10 to 12 minutes really, so that they don't get dried out and gross. All right, our pan is on. Let's get this nice and hot so that we can sear that chicken. I just put the casserole in, and so that's gonna start working. And I think I'm actually just gonna do 2 at a time, just to make sure we don't crowd the pan. And I'm really just searing like 1.5 minutes or so, maybe 2 minutes each side. Okay, this has been in for about 10 minutes. I am gonna just give it a stir and put it back in, because we're not even like really hot yet, okay? So I'm not going to put the chicken in yet, because I think it's actually gonna take longer than I anticipated. This is what we're wanting to see. That rice is really starting to cook, which is awesome. Let's give it a mix, and I'm gonna add the chicken to the dish. Add this on here. This is gonna go back into the oven, probably about 10 more minutes. All right, this just came out of the oven. We're gonna let it just sit for about 5 or so minutes, just like this, letting the rice absorb any of the extra leftover liquid, but I already tasted a bite of the rice, and it is delicious. Let's give it a try. Chicken is cooked, looks really good. This is just one that I can go back to over and over again. It is always solid. It's always delicious. Every single time it feels hearty. It's just so good. It's so good. I cannot encourage you guys enough to try this one out because it is really delicious. And honestly, because I only cooked the chicken breasts in the oven for about 8 to 10 minutes, they are not overdone at all, but it's very good with chicken thighs. If you wanna see Sunday's crockpot meal, you gotta check out this video right here. You're gonna love it. Not only are you gonna get Sunday's meal, so you're getting that other recipe from this week, you're also gonna get 2 other amazing recipes, one of the best desserts we've ever had, and a breakfast crockpot recipe. So delicious, so good. You guys are gonna love this one. Head to this video now. Our verse today comes from Colossians 3:13. Bear with each other and forgive one another. If any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you. I hope you enjoyed today's video, seeing all of these different meals that we had during the week. I highly suggest that next you check out this video right here that I have listed above. Have a great week.